On Zombie Reddit, today's story is...
My daughter ruined my life with Wild to Live with the Millionaire Who Seduced My Wife, which happened 1 year later. Nobody could have anticipated it. At 45 years of age, I am new to this platform. I found this site by chance and decided to register with a discreet name to share my experience. This story needs a lot of explanation, so it will be long, as I have never been good at synthesizing complicated situations. To understand what happened, I must introduce myself. I have been married to Selena, 43, for 23 years. Our family includes Deborah, 21, and Milo, 14. My job as a construction supervisor allowed me to support our family, while Selena worked part-time as a receptionist at a nearby clinic. Financially, we were tight, but we managed to give our children a decent existence, making some sacrifices like any middle-class family. Everything changed about a year ago. Selena began to show typical signs of infidelity, as obvious as Christmas lights. Every time I tried to talk about it, she accused me of exaggerating, being paranoid, or behaving like a possessive husband. The situation became clear when Deborah approached me, visibly upset. She told me that she had seen her mother having lunch with a stranger. Although it could have been a work colleague, we both knew that the reality was different. Selena was not just having lunch with this individual, she was having a romantic relationship with him. The man turned out to be Robert, 50. A wealthy real estate businessman who had recently arrived in our community, famous for his extravagant celebrations and his economic ostentation. Apparently, Selena had been secretly attending these meetings for months. When confronted, she admitted the situation and expressed her desire to divorce because she had fallen in love with Robert. Suddenly, 23 years together were reduced to nothing. Until that moment, my case seemed like a typical story of betrayal where a wife abandons her husband for another. I had accepted it. She was looking for someone with greater purchasing power, and I didn't want to continue with someone materialistic. The solution seemed simple. Grant the divorce and move on. However, the worst was yet to come. The infidelity hurt, but I managed to get over it. The real problem arose when Deborah, who had revealed the betrayal, sided with her mother. Initially, I thought she would support me, considering her outrage at discovering the deception. But money proved persuasive. She accused me of being a failure, of providing them with a mediocre life for lack of ambition. These words from my own daughter, not from a stranger, caused indescribable pain. The legal process was devastating. With Robert's financial resources, Selena destroyed me in court. I was portrayed as emotionally abusive, controlling, and neglectful, describing someone completely unlike me. To make matters worse, Deborah testified against me, claiming that I had anger issues, that I was cruel to her and her mother, and even that I had threatened her. It was all untrue. Every single claim. But Deborah was convincing with her eloquence and confidence, winning the judge's credibility. I couldn't prove otherwise. The court granted Selena almost everything: the house, most of our savings, and, most painfully, full custody of Milo. I lost my marriage, my home, and my relationship with my children. Milo begged to stay with me, but as a minor, his opinion carried little weight. I was granted limited visitation, insufficient for me. My lawyer and I requested paternity tests for both children as a legal strategy, but they were indeed mine, so we could not prove prolonged infidelity. The recent betrayal mattered little to the judge, who saw me as a monster while considering that Selena sought refuge in Robert for protection. As if that were not enough, Deborah requested a restraining order alleging fear for her safety, although she had not seen her since the trial. I was officially excluded from her life. 3 months ago, I started to rebuild my existence. But it has been complicated. I could have handled the situation with my wife, but what happened to my children, especially Milo, destroyed me. I moved to a small apartment and focused all my energy on work. The only positive thing was my financial improvement, saving considerably and increasing my income with multiple simultaneous projects. For a while, I tried to stay away, hoping that time would heal the wounds and perhaps Deborah would discover the truth. But nothing changed. Selena settled down with Robert and Deborah followed her. They lived in a mansion, enjoying the lifestyle that Selena had always longed for. Apparently, they had it all: wealth, comfort, and status. The court order prevented me from contacting Deborah to try to get her to rectify her testimony. I couldn't risk violating it because it would jeopardize my rights to Milo. Soon the situation worsened. Milo would call me secretly from Selena's house, describing his hatred of living with Robert, his controlling nature, and how miserable everything had become. He told me that Robert kept a close eye on every aspect of their lives, including phone calls and conversations. Ironically, it matched exactly the accusations Deborah had made against me, but this time it was real. Last week, something unexpected happened. I received several desperate messages from Deborah. She didn't know how to act because of the restraining order. In her texts, Deborah explained how Robert had become verbally abusive to her and Selena. He controlled their expenses, constantly criticized their actions, and flew into a rage if they didn't obey his rules. He kept a constant watch on their movements, contacts, and activities. Deborah mentioned that Robert humiliated Selena in front of her, insulted her, and treated her like property. He criticized her appearance and even her career decisions. The man they left me for turned out to be a nightmare. I immediately noticed the irony. Everything Deborah falsely accused me of, Robert was actually doing. And now she was asking me for help, even though the court order prevented her from doing so directly. At this point, my dilemma regarding Deborah was whether I would be a bad father by allowing her to face the consequences of her own actions. Now I was experiencing exactly what she had accused me of doing, a valuable lesson. My main concern was Milo, trapped in that house. I could use Deborah's help, but I was afraid of violating the court order and making the situation worse. I didn't want to risk Milo being completely isolated there. I doubted that the messages would be enough as evidence. I understood that helping Milo would mean indirectly helping Deborah, who didn't deserve my support. However, I wouldn't punish my son just because my daughter and ex-wife tried to ruin my life. Update 1. The comments on my story are numerous, which is comforting. I appreciate all the opinions, even those that differ from my perspective. Some suggest that I should help Deborah unconditionally because she is my daughter, rescuing her from that abuser even though she has portrayed me as one. They argue that a father should forgive his children. I do not share this view, but I want to show that I have read all the suggestions. Milo has returned to communicating in secret to avoid suspicion. According to him, the situation with Robert has deteriorated. The domineering behavior mentioned by Deborah has intensified. Robert prevents Deborah and Selena from going out without informing him where they are going and when they will return, always with his prior authorization. My son describes Robert as obsessed with dominating every aspect of their lives. He has heard how he yells at Selena for trifles like being 5 minutes late. He also told me that his sister, who once thought Robert was ideal, now fears him deeply. According to Milo, she spends almost all her time locked up, avoiding any interaction with Robert so as not to provoke his anger. Selena seems completely subdued and has stopped confronting him, obeying all his demands. Although I remain indifferent to their problems, I am extremely concerned about Milo. He claims that Robert does not mistreat him, but I do not know if he is telling the truth or simply avoiding worrying me. I contacted my lawyer immediately after my previous publication. He advised me to proceed cautiously, to document all the information provided by Deborah, and to file a police report, emphasizing my concern for her safety, not for revenge. He also suggested requesting the annulment of the restraining order given the new circumstances. I followed his recommendations. I went to the police and filed a report, describing Robert's behavior based on Deborah and Milo's accounts. I even used audio recordings sent by Milo and Deborah's messages as backup. The officer who recorded my statement was understanding, but warned that without Deborah or Selena present, his options were limited. I am aware of the restrictions of the judicial system, but I cannot help feeling frustrated. Simultaneously, my lawyer filed a request to revoke the restraining order. We are awaiting a response from the court, trusting that the judge will understand the seriousness of the case and lift the restriction, at least temporarily. During this process, I am in communication with Milo, my only stable link. Since even my lawyer recommends not violating the court order, he is just a child caught up in this chaos. I assure you that I am doing everything legally possible to help them. I also clearly instructed him that if he perceives imminent danger to himself or anyone else, he should immediately contact emergency services. I even suggested that he discreetly keep some money and essential items in case he needs to leave quickly. He has shown extraordinary courage, although I know he is bearing an excessive burden for his age. I will report any developments, but for now, I reiterate my thanks for your advice and support. It has been a difficult few months, but at least I no longer feel alone. Perhaps I should have shared my story much sooner. Update 2. Before continuing, I want to address the suggestions about breaking into the house and taking Milo away. I have considered this option, feeling powerless. However, this would only cause the justice system to take my son away from me and give him back to Robert, who would also know my intentions and could take revenge by harming Milo. So far, Milo has been relatively safe, and I've always tried to act strategically to minimize his suffering. I recognize that Selena and Deborah are suffering in this situation, but as adults, they chose this path. They could leave that home and report it. This introduction contextualizes my update. It should bring good news, but I fear it is premature or does not represent a permanent improvement. The situation seems to develop of its own accord, becoming even more unpredictable. A few nights ago, Milo called me in a state of terror. Whispering, he told me how Robert had lost control when he found out about something Deborah had done without his approval. According to Milo, Robert went into a state of uncontrollable rage. He took Deborah's phone and smashed it against the wall while shouting at her in a rage. When Selena tried to intervene, Robert turned his anger on her, not only verbally, but also physically. As a father, hearing these details from your son is devastating. Milo described Robert's fury as something he had never witnessed before. I told him to resist and to call the police immediately, giving them the exact address. I also contacted my lawyer, who informed me that given the risk to my son, he could justifiably violate the restraining order. That's why I went there myself. When we arrived at Robert's house, the police were already there. They demanded that Robert come out, but he disobeyed. From outside, we could hear the shouting. Everything seemed to be happening in slow motion. I was waiting at the edge of the entrance when I heard a crash, something breaking inside, and suddenly the front door flew open. Deborah ran out first, in tears. She came straight towards me, apologizing before I could react. I only asked about Milo. Fortunately, Milo and Selena appeared later, looking pale. I ran to hug my son while the paramedics attended to Deborah and Selena. Deborah did not have serious injuries, but Selena, on the contrary, had a bloody face from a cut near her forehead and eyelid, an area that was bleeding profusely, creating a shocking image. Meanwhile, the police arrested Robert inside the house. They took him out in handcuffs. Visibly enraged, he was shouting threats against all of us. I don't think all his wealth will help him this time. The police took statements from everyone. Deborah, Selena, and Milo detailed months of various types of abuse. Deborah confessed that Robert's manipulation and control began almost immediately after she moved in with him. He had isolated them, generated economic and emotional dependence, and gradually destroyed their self-esteem. She admitted that all her claims during the trial about my alleged abuse and anger issues were false, prompted by Robert and Selena, who were then living in a distorted reality. My lawyer also came to protect me legally in case of arrest for violating the court order, although it turned out to be unnecessary. Selena, perhaps impacted by the trauma, also apologized and acknowledged that she had allowed her ambition for a better life to cloud her judgment about Robert. She admitted her mistake, not only for believing Robert's lies, but for involving Deborah and Milo in them. After the police left and Robert was arrested, we began to come to terms with our new reality. The restraining order was immediately lifted, and my lawyer is working to reopen the divorce case. Selena and Deborah could face legal consequences for giving false testimony, which I think is only fair. It would be the first time I've gotten any kind of justice. Milo currently lives with me in my small apartment. It's a small space compared to our old house, but we need to be together. I don't know Selena and Deborah's current whereabouts, but having my son safe here is the only thing that matters. I have arranged for Milo to have therapy sessions, and, if necessary, for me too. The family is irretrievably fractured, at least including Selena and Deborah, but I retain my little family of two, Milo and me. This shows why I couldn't just take him away. All this suffering by Deborah and Selena could have fallen on Milo if I had acted rashly without police intervention. The same police who ignored my previous complaints and allowed this situation to escalate before acting. If they had intervened when there was insufficient evidence against Robert, and Milo returned to that house, I would never forgive myself if instead of Selena, it was he who was hurt, or worse. Update 3. The main thing is that Robert is facing formal charges on multiple counts of domestic violence, coercive control, and criminal threats. Knowing that he remains in custody is a great relief, and the prosecutor has assured us that, given the abundance of evidence and our testimonies, it is highly unlikely that he will be granted bail before the trial. This is excellent news, because anyone who witnessed him leaving in handcuffs that night would understand that people like him should remain in prison for a long time. Robert's arrest caused a commotion in the community, especially considering his careful public image. No one suspected the true personality hidden behind the wealth and charm. In private, he was completely different, feeding on the control and fear of others. His trial is still some way off, but I trust that justice will be done. Some people ask about our future plans. Milo is still living with me while Selena and Deborah are staying with a friend of my ex-wife. She has asked for Milo to return, but I replied that I deserve time with him after what happened. She has not challenged this decision. The adjustment is strange. You may consider me insensitive for not forgiving my daughter, for not recognizing that she was manipulated, first by Selena and then by Robert. But no one physically forced her to testify against me. Her only motivation was the money and lifestyle offered by her new stepfather. Sometimes parents have to allow their children to make the wrong decisions so that they can prove our warnings right. Deborah made an extremely wrong one, and her punishment is now my inability to see her in the same way. Honestly, I don't know if I will ever be able to do it. I can't promise to forgive her, nor can I promise not to. They would be impossible promises to keep. In the legal arena, my lawyer has been exceptional. Thanks to Deborah's retraction and new evidence of Robert's abusive behavior, we have managed to reopen the divorce case. The judge has indicated that he will probably overturn the original sentence, which was heavily biased by false accusations. This means that I could recover part of what I lost: financial stability, my home, and, fundamentally, my dignity. I feel mixed emotions. I never imagined I would have the opportunity to clarify the situation, and although it is bittersweet to know the damage caused, I appreciate this new possibility. Many expressed concern for Milo, and I thank them. Despite his youth, he shows great strength. His resilience and maturity amaze me. At only 14 years old, he has faced this crisis with unexpected serenity. A father should not normally lean on his son, but the other way around. However, Milo is my support simply by his presence. You cannot imagine how much I missed him. Eventually, he will have to return to his mother, unless he gets full custody, which is a real possibility at the moment. But even if he doesn't get it, I'm glad to think that I will share more time with him. They also asked if I had forgiven Selena, a more complex answer than a simple, no, I have not forgiven the infidelity or the perjury. At least she has begun to make amends by partially confessing her actions. I don't think there is a middle ground between forgiving and not forgiving. But to define my current feelings towards Selena, I would describe them as complicated. I will not resume our relationship or maintain a friendship with her, but at least she is not complicating the situation any further. She could legally demand immediate cohabitation with Milo, but she avoids doing so. I think she fears my legal reprisals, but this will not soften my position. I will claim everything I am entitled to in court. Her current collaboration will only determine whether our future relationship will be completely negative or minimally cordial. Update 4. Robert hasn't eliminated me, it's just that legal proceedings take time. I preferred not to update without any relevant news until today, when we had an important hearing. Initially, the divorce was reversed, and with it, many previous losses. Firstly, the house that they awarded Selena as compensation for presenting me as an abuser, a property she sold when she moved in with Robert. Not only has this award been overturned, but I have also completely recovered the house. The only drawback is its previous sale, which has been resolved through equivalent financial compensation, plus an additional amount for having sold it hastily below its real value. Milo's custody has been reviewed and, considering Selena's background, I applied for and obtained full custody. He will remain with me permanently, and Selena will have visiting rights. Evidently, she did not anticipate this request of mine, changing her recent attitude. But I warned her that I would fight for everything I deserved, and that is what I am doing. We are also suing Robert for his interference in the divorce proceedings. With the financial compensation, we are looking for a new residence with Milo. The small apartment will be left behind. We want individual space for each of us, a recreation room, and even a large garden for sports activities. You will notice that these plans exclude Deborah, absent from this update. This reflects her current irrelevance in my life. I am not unfairly favoring Milo, as some suggest. It is simply that Deborah has proven to be an extremely disappointing daughter, and I will not expect another betrayal when she finds a more convenient substitute father. Both she and her mother have been fined for perjury, receiving some legal sanction. Socially, neither can appear in public without being recognized, first for their connection to Robert, but also for perjury and for the suffering inflicted on Milo.